Hey everyone, and welcome back into Mad Sports. Today we're going to talk about who Nebraska's new defensive coordinator possibly could be. Yesterday, Matt Rhule laid out a list of criteria of who he wants in his new defensive coordinator yesterday in his press conference. So we're going to go through some names that probably aren't going to be likely considered candidates. Some names that could be considered candidates, but still probably not likely. And we're going to go through 4 names that I think could be splash hires. We're going to go through all of that today on Mad Sports. So let's get into it. So like I said, there's some names on this list that are just no-goes. I mean, there's names that people have thrown out there that I'm like, why? Why would you even throw that name out there? But here's some of those names, and we're going to get into them right now. The first one is Ed Orgeron. Sorry, I paused for effect there. Ed Orgeron has been out of college football since 2021. Yeah, sure, he can recruit, he can develop talent, but if you've been out of the game for 4 years, there's no chance that you're just gonna dive feet first back into college football and be successful. There's gonna be a learning curve, and Nebraska does not have time for a learning curve. The next name we're gonna get into is Bo Pelini. Guys, just stop. Bo Pelini is not going to come back to coach in Nebraska. And besides, even if he did, he's been out of the game since 2020. The last job that he had was with Ed Orgeron at LSU. So even though people love Bo Pelini, I love Bo Pelini, and people want to see him as our new defensive coordinator, it's just not going to happen. A couple of more names on this list are Sue. No, that's not going to happen. Carl Pelini. No, that's not going to happen. Tony White's been thrown out there. That's not going to happen. And Phil Snow, who's on this coaching staff now. No, that guy wants to retire. I mean, he's basically just doing Matt Rhule a favor right now. So with all of those names, they're not even being considered, nor should they be considered. I've got a list of names here of some guys that are probably on Matt Rhule's board. He's probably looking at these names and considering hiring some of these guys, or at least interviewing them. So we're going to go through them right now. We're going to go through some of their resumes as defensive coordinators or head coaches and what they can bring to the table for this team moving forward if they do get hired. So let's jump right into it. The first name is Clayton White, and he's the current defensive coordinator at South Carolina. He's been there since 2021. Before that, he was the former defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky from 2017 to 2020. Before that, he's been mainly a special teams coordinator. So I think there's a 50-50 shot here that he could be considered for the job, but I don't think he's a likely candidate. The next candidate we're going to talk about is Mr. Mark Stoops. He's the former head coach at the University of Kentucky. He was there from 2013 to 2025. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Florida State from 2010 to 2012. He was the defensive coordinator at Arizona from 04 to 09 and Houston in 2000. I don't think it's likely that he gets hired, but he can recruit, he can develop, and he could also potentially bring some players with him in the transfer portal from Kentucky. We got Dane Key from Kentucky last year, so we know that there's talent on the team, but is it likely that Matt Rhule considers Mark Stoops as a candidate? I don't know. I think he'd be a decent hire, but I think maybe he's in that mindset of, I kind of want to take a break. I don't necessarily want to retire because I'm not quite old enough to retire. If I were Mark Stoops, I would probably want to take a year off, which is fine. Most coaches do that. So, moving on here. My next name on this list is a name that really hasn't been thrown out a lot, but somebody that I would consider if I were Matt Rhule, and that's Tom Allen. He's the current defensive coordinator at Clemson. He was the former defensive coordinator at Penn State in 2024. He was the Indiana head coach from 2017 to 2023. He has Big Ten and SEC coaching experience. He can recruit, he can develop, and he could bring some players with him from Clemson. I doubt that he leaves, but he would definitely be a name to consider if I were Matt Rhule. Another hot name that's been thrown out there a lot is Mr. Ryan Walters. He's the current defensive coordinator at Washington. He was the head coach at Purdue from 2023 to 2024. He was the defensive coordinator at Illinois from 2021 to 2022. And he was the defensive coordinator at Missouri from 2016 to 2020. Again, this is another guy that has Big Ten and SEC coaching experience. He can recruit, he can develop, and he could bring players with him through the transfer portal, not only from Washington, but from Purdue as well. I'm sure he still has connections and relationships with the guys on that roster over there. However, I doubt that this guy wants to make a lateral move. And that's the thing with a lot of these guys is they're current defensive coordinators right now. Why would they want to make a lateral move? The only reason that any of these guys would want to make a lateral move is because they're getting a pay raise. Now, Nebraska has the money to pay these guys, but if somebody's already established on a team with a coaching staff, their family lives somewhere, like why would they want to uproot all of that just for a lateral move? Anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's my spiel for the day. Next up on this list is Justin Wilcox. He was the former head coach at Cal from 2017 to 2025. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin in 2016, the defensive coordinator at USC from 2014 to 2015. He was the defensive coordinator at Washington from 2012 to 2013. Tennessee from 2010 to 2011, and Boise State from 2006 to 2009. He's got SEC and Big Ten coaching experience. He can recruit, he can coach, he can develop, and he could bring players with him from Cal. So I know I talked about Mark Stoops coming over here and having talent to bring with him from Kentucky. If we hire Justin Wilcox, we know that there's talent on Cal's team because that's where we got an Isaiah Hunter from. He's one of our stud wide receivers, and I think if we hire Justin Wilcox, he could bring with him some more talent from Cal. One big concern, however, I have with Justin Wilcox is that he doesn't stay at one place for too long. If you look at his resume, the longest place he stayed was at Cal when he was the head coach. But before that, he only stayed in one spot for 1 to 2 years at the most. So if we do hire Justin Wilcox, my only concern is how long is he going to stay here? Is he going to be hungry to get another head coaching job? If he is, that's fine. But it's not about what I want. It's about who Matt Rhule wants and who he thinks is going to be a good fit for this team. So, moving on. The next name on my list is Mr. Mike Tressel. He's the current defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. He's been there since 2023. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati from 2021 to 2022. Before that, he was at Michigan State from 2015 to 2019. He performed really well at Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio, but overall, it was underwhelming. He could bring with him some Wisconsin players in the transfer portal, but I don't really think that Mike Tressel is being considered for the job. Next on my list is Mr. Joe Rossi. He's the current defensive coordinator at Michigan State. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Minnesota from 2018 to 2023, the defensive coordinator at Rutgers from 2014 to 2015. His resume is a bit underwhelming, and I don't know if he's going to be retained by Pat Fitzgerald, the new head coach at Michigan State. If he does get let go, he could bring with him some stud players from Michigan State in the transfer portal. These next 4 names on this list are home run hires. If Matt Rhule hires any of these guys, it will not only spark excitement in the fan base, but it'll spark excitement on the team, and it'll spark excitement on any of the players that are considering transferring to Nebraska. The first name on the list is DJ Durkin. He's the current defensive coordinator at Auburn. He was retained by Alex Golesh, so I don't think that he'll consider leaving, but if he does, he has SEC and Big Ten coaching experience. He can recruit, he can develop, and he could bring players with him from Auburn in the transfer portal. His resume is stacked. He was the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M from 2022 to 2023. He was at Ole Miss from 2020 to 2021. Before that, he was at Michigan in 2015, and he was at Florida from 2013 to 2014. This hire is unlikely. However, if he were hired, he would be a home run hit. Next, the name you've all been waiting for, Mr. Jim Leonard. He's the current passing coordinator and assistant head coach for the Denver Broncos. He's the defensive backs coach and the passing game coordinator in 2024. He was an analyst at Illinois in 2023. But before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin from 2017 to 2023. He was the Broyles Award finalist in 2017. This guy can coach. This guy can recruit. But he's been out of the game for 2 years. And he won't be bringing any players with him in the portal if he does decide to come. So with his associate head coach tag and his cushy job in the NFL, I think it's unlikely that he would come. However, again, if Matt Rhule hires Jim Leonard, holy cow, this guy's going to be good. And he's going to take this team to the next level if he gets the job. Next on my list is Scott Simmons. His name was in the mix for defensive coordinator last year, but instead, Matt Rhule hired John Butler. Instead, Scott Simmons took SMU to their first college football playoff appearance in 2024. He's only coached in the group of 4, so even though he can recruit and develop, is that going to translate to the Big Ten? He would be a great recruiter in the state of Texas, and he could bring with him some players from SMU through the transfer portal. He's been the defensive coordinator at SMU since 2022, and before that, he was at Liberty from 2019 to 2021. Finally, on my list of names for potential defensive coordinators is exactly who I want. This is Mr. Jim Knowles. He's exactly who Matt Rhule needs on his coaching staff. He's a Philly guy. He fits all of the criteria that Matt Rhule laid out, and he would bring with him a championship mindset. Let's go through his resume. He's the current defensive coordinator at Penn State. He was the defensive coordinator at Ohio State from 2022 to 2024. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State from 2018 to 2021. And he was at Duke from 2010 to 2017. In 2024, Jim Knowles won a national championship as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And not only that, but that team ranked first in red zone defense, scoring defense, and yards allowed. This guy can coach. This guy can develop. This guy can recruit, and this guy could potentially bring with him some stud players from Penn State. You know, the guys who kicked our butts a couple of weeks ago. However, Penn State could also hire him as their head coach. What do you do if you're Matt Rhule? You know, do you consider hiring a guy who is already on another coaching staff? Do you consider hiring a guy who just got fired? Do you consider hiring a guy who doesn't know what his next move is or where he's going to go next? I don't know. All I do know is that Matt Rhule has a tough decision to make. So whoever it is, it needs to be a splash hire. Someone that falls under Matt Rhule's criteria of play style and how hard the players play. He isn't necessarily concerned about scheme. He wants player development, physicality, and effort, way more than he wants scheme. Jim Knowles can bring all of that out in these players. He can bring a championship mentality to this defense and to this staff. Make a splash hire. Make a championship caliber hire. Well, that's it, everyone. We went through the names of who I don't think is going to be our new defensive coordinator next year. Some names that I think there's a 50-50 shot of Matt Rhule hiring for his new defensive coordinator. And 4 names that I think would be home run hires. Splash hires. I mean, people who would knock it out of the park and really get this team over the hump. Whatever happens, when it happens, we'll be here to talk about it. So with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, comment down below who you want the new defensive coordinator to be or who you think would be a good fit for this coaching staff. Make sure you hit the notification bell to let you know whenever we've got another video coming out. And I just want to thank you for being here. This has been really fun. I'm having a good time doing this, and I'm really happy that you're here to do it with me. So with all that being said, thank you so much. God bless, and go Big Red.